Hello. I decided instead of doing two separate videos, one for the VOD and one for the match review, I just recorded all at once, so I'm just going to go through all of the replays that you guys sent in. If you just want the games, I will put the timestamps in the description. And you can just mute the audio if you don't want to hear any talking and just want to watch the games. So I'm going to go through my own games first, and then I have the rest of the replays loaded up. So yeah, for future reference, this week we decided to do a for fun format where it'd be Reg H plus you're required to use one mythical Pokemon. So, you can look up what qualifies as a mythical. But there are certain ones that aren't allowed in Scarlet and Violet because they're not obtainable or transferable. So those ones are not allowed. So first up, mirrors is Ben. We have the Magearna mirror. Annihilate Chandelure ended up being my go-to to get Trick Room up. I think in this scenario, the whole set, I was thinking like maybe he would go for Terra Ghost plus Taunt, and that would be the way to stop Trick Room from going up. But in this one, I just kind of went for the play, and it ended up going well. So Trick Room comes up here. I did lose a decent bit, but actually getting Electabuzz out of the way is really nice, so that's good. Garchomp Magearna. I don't know what set he was running on Magearna. Mine is pretty slow with quite a bit invested in bulk. And my Chandelure is very slow, so I felt pretty confident on this because I believe Dazzling Gleam is always a KO on Garchomp once you Terra Fairy. I made sure to calc that. Actually, going into this Garchomp was one of my main concerns because I had so many ground weaknesses, which is why you see the Rillaboom on the team. But I think in almost every game I Terra'd Magearna whenever I brought it, with I think one exception where I Terra'd Incineroar, but we'll see more where we go from here. So I mean, at this point in this particular game, speed control is pretty far in my favor, so it's not a huge deal. The two main ways that Trick Room was going to be stopped from going up was the Taunt and the Imprison. And so once the Taunt was out of the way, I felt pretty confident in that. So I do end up losing the set. So this lead right here is what I originally thought could work because, Fake Out plus Trick Room is very common. But I think I end up overthinking this quite a bit. This particular scenario comes up a decent bit, I think. But in this scenario, there should be no way to stop Trick Room from coming up here. Since Chandelure being a ghost type with Focus Sash and a Trick Room setter ended up being very helpful. Like, it's hard. You can't Fake Out. You can't use any fighting moves on it or anything like that. And my particular Chandelure is very slow, so even though I have a Focus Sash, I invested quite a bit in health. Because, as I learned, it actually doesn't have the worst defensive stats, just the HP is really low. So Trick Room goes up here, but unfortunately Incineroar is not doing too much on the field. And the reason that I brought Dozo most of the games is Terrifier Garchomp is actually like if I have Incineroar, Chandelier, Magearna, then Terrifier Garchomp is such a big problem. So here, I think I end up playing a little bit too passively while Trick Room is up. My thinking was that I can swap Chandelier out and we can just play for the second Trick Room, but I believe it ends up getting... It becomes overwhelming, basically. Magearna having Protect means that it's hard to call attacks into it right now, so there is a pretty safe double up into this Electabuzz slot, but the Electabuzz lives, and now it can just go for Follow Me here. I actually really considered clicking Fissure, but yeah, I think in hindsight, I think I end up going for Yawn here, which ends up being a mistake, but under the Trick Room, I really needed to get Magearna going, I think. Yeah, so with one turn of Trick Room left, I think I expect to happen here is a double Protect. So my plan was I'll just get Incineroar and Chandelier in, ready for the next Trick Room. Oh, I end up not actually going for Incineroar. Yeah, I think this ends up killing me, I think. Like, I think if I switch Incineroar in here, I can get Trick Room up again. Well, maybe not, honest. Well, yeah, because I just fake out Flamigo, and then Magearna shouldn't be able to knock me out from... Even with a boost in Terra Fairy, I don't know if it KOs. His Magearna did not have Floor Cannon, so I think I probably would have been fine taking a +1 Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam with Chandelier, especially since it's spread. But at this point, the tempo is way out of my control, and my Dondozo is 252 HP, 252 attack, so I am very not bulky to special attacks. So I think the Dazzling Gleam ends up just killing everything here. So game 3, I think, yeah, I remember the lead on this one ends up being pretty bad. So the thing that, again, I'm worried about is Terra Ghost, Electabuzz plus Taunt into my Chandelier. So I end up going for what I call is like, it's basically like a mid-range play, which is that I can go for Final Gambit into Electabuzz to cover for, like if it protects, then it's not taunting me, that's fine. If it doesn't Terra Ghost, then it dies. But I end up clicking Overheat because I'm like, okay, I'll cover for that. And then if I do get taunted, because he doesn't Terra, then I'll just be able to hit. But he ends up having a really nice Protect there. And this ends up costing me the game, because the double knockout ends up making Magearna already at +2. And then from here, my Magearna is basically pinned. Like, I either Terra away from the Earthquake, or I keep my Fairy Resist and get hit with Earthquake plus Dazzling Gleam, which in hindsight I think is the right call. But I think it's just too much at this point. Well, actually, it wouldn't even have mattered. Earthquake actually did quite a bit. So yeah, at that point, it's basically too late. Dondozo can't do it alone. But well played to him. I think the turn 1 protect with the Magirna was a really good call. Even though I think later when we talked, he said that he was trying to protect the final gambit. But it ended up being a good call. I guess I was more concerned about Terra Ghost not being able to get Trick Room out than I needed to be. Which makes sense, like you save your Terra for your strongest sweeper. So the next one is against Free Game, which is pretty interesting. Like there's counters on both ends that are interesting. Zarude is really bad into Magirna and Cineroar, and arguably Chandelier, but it's very teched into beating Rillaboom, and it is one of his only answers that can actually hit Dondozo. So I kind of expected to see Corviknight a little bit more, but I guess against Chandelier it makes a lot of sense to be scared of it. But so here, Woodhammer does one-hit KO Tyranitar, but I was a little bit worried about Terra Flying, because again, the goal is to get the Trick Room up. So he ends up switching into the Zarude. I fake out the Garchomp slot, which I think ends up not being the right choice, because my thought process is that Garchomp does more damage than Tyranitar. So me going for fake out either ensures that it flinches and it doesn't get any damage, or it protects and still doesn't get any damage. But in reality, I just have a pretty guaranteed fake out into the Tyranitar slot. And so now Zarude comes in, which, as I said, is his Rillaboom answer with the Grassy Seed plus Acrobatics. So yeah, I don't actually remember what I end up doing here, but I think I end up respecting the. Oh, I think I remember. I think I'm ending up respecting the Terra Flying too much on the Tyranitar. And the flinch there is pretty unfortunate, because I would have one-hit KO'd Tyranitar for sure. And here I think it's like a pretty obvious switch into the Garchomp, I think. But my Chandelier doesn't really have another answer. Like, this really should have been me bringing in Dondozo, I think. And Incineroar doesn't really get to do much either, so. The overheat chip would have been nice. Like, it probably does like 40 to 50%. Probably 40-ish. But at this point, it's like the games that I lost, I felt like I was way too passive in my Trick Room and didn't really. I either didn't set up Magirna fast enough, or in this case, I wasn't in position to get the second Trick Room off. Yeah, 40%, like I thought. Chandelier goes down. And I mean, Dondozo is actually like incredibly tanky into his team, other than the Zarude Power Whip. And I think even though this is 2v4, I think, but it ended up going down to the last two Pokemon, I think, just because Dondozo is really annoying for his team to take down, and Incineroar being able to like slow a lot of the damage down is really helpful. But Incineroar's health bar is on like a timer here because it doesn't have any healing. I don't have Citrus Berry on it, so Grassy Terrain runs out here. So even though the enemy Pokemon are really low, and I think I end up calling this turn very well, if I remember correctly. Like, he basically, in my thought process, it makes sense for him to go into Zarude on the or one of the slots. So yeah, I get good damage into both, but like I said, like the Incineroar not being able to get any health back just means that it's too much. Like, Dondozo is sitting pretty here, but it's like literally in a 1v4. And yeah, the Terra Ghost on the Corviknight, or the Incineroar, I think is pretty... It's like a super hard call, because at this point I can't really Terra to Poison to get away from the... I can't Terra Poison to get away from the Power Whip because the back Pokemon have Earthquake. So this ends up working out, but like there's not enough gas in the tank, basically. It's also like, I think Corviknight versus Dozo probably gets stalled for a very long time because he can Iron Defense up and make me do no damage, and he has Roost. But I think I have enough stall between Yawn, Protect, and Leftovers so that that if this was a 1v1, I feel like this would go on forever. Like, I would probably have to, like, there's no way I'm killing him because he has Roost and Iron Defense unless I hard call a Roost turn and hit him with Fissure. Like, I think that's the only option. But I think it would also be very hard for him to kill Dondozo because of the Unaware. So I think Body Press does like 15% maybe. Possibly worse. So this ends up being a pretty common lead that I find to be pretty effective, which is the Annihilate Magearna. In general, I just think Annihilate plus Magearna or Chandelier performed very well for me. And I think one thing that, you know, this is a casual format, so whatever, but for free game, not having Protect on a lot of his mons meant that Annihilate was very free to click Final Gambit a lot of the time. Like, I think the only Pokemon that have Protect are Excadrill, Indeedee, and Corviknight, and out of those, Indeedee doesn't want to click Protect because it has Choice Scarf. It's the Scarf set that Niels Dunlop used. The Expanding Force, Terra Blast, Trick plus Protect, which is a really good set, and I think it's very good with Sand, obviously. But in this scenario, like, you're not gonna stop Final Gambit by protecting, right? So, so yeah, there's the double boost with the Magearna. Dazzling Gleam does a ton of damage, and Magearna all of a sudden after one turn is at +3. So, yeah, you could argue that Protect here might come out for Magearna, but being able to Terra to Fairy means that Earthquake probably doesn't kill because I'm pretty invested in bulk. And Corviknight can't actually do that much to Terra Fairy because it's not running Brave Bird. So yeah, this kills Garchomp, and then we get Trick Room up, I think. Yeah. And this scenario never came up. I don't think I ever clicked Haze on Chandelure, but my Chandelure is EV'd, or not EV'd. It has 0 speed plus a minus nature plus specifically like 20 speed IVs or something, so that's 1 point slower than my Magearna. So that way I could haze any drops from the Fleur Cannon. But as it turns out, Magearna ended up getting so many boosts so quickly that the haze didn't really, there's some anti-synergy there, so I didn't end up being able to do anything with that. In fact, having Protect on Chandelure probably would have been pretty helpful, but what are you gonna do? So, game 3, same lead for me, and again I have a pretty free move here because Tyranitar can't protect itself. So whatever switches in is instantly going to die. Magearna gets all of its special attack boosts, and it's going to one-hit KO Garchomp, ends up at +3 plus Terra Fairy. And I think here, I'm thinking, do I go Incineroar Chandelure? Because if Excadrill is there, then that is the one Pokemon that could end up killing Magearna. But because I have Incineroar in here, I can just fake out and everything is fine. The one thing would be is if he protected the Excadrill. But it ends up being fine, I think. Because I think even if you protect Excadrill, I don't think Zerud kills Magearna with Power Whip here. Definitely not at -1 attack. Yeah. And then Zerud would have dropped, and then Excadrill would have been in a 1v3, which I don't think it's gonna win at -1. So that is the end of that set. I think Free Game's team was actually pretty good. I just feel like the Excadrill and Garchomp fulfill the same slots. Like they're both Swords Dance Earthquake users in this scenario. And having Protect on Garchomp I think would have been very nice to have. Like, I don't think you need Rock Slide on that team. Okay, so the set against Aster. So her Mythical is Arceus. And I think the threatening thing about Arceus is that it's not that it pumps out insane damage, in my opinion. It's more that the base stats it has just make it naturally like super bulky and fast while still dealing damage. So I do have Fake Out cycling for this. Like if I just get rid of Indeedee and win the terrain war, then we can slow it down pretty reliably between Incineroar and Rillaboom. But I don't remember. I think I ended up losing this game where I tried to do that, and then the game I win ends up being the Annihilate mode of the team. So I guess at the end of the day, the Annihilate mode was the strongest version of the team, which makes sense. Like normally that's a double KO, which gives Magearna a +2 boost, and then normally Magearna knocks something out, so it just suddenly gets like 3 boosts basically. But yeah, this lead, Arceus will not KO Chandler in one hit, obviously, because it has Focus Sash. So I'm actually free to click Fake Out into Arceus, even though I know Tinkaton has a faster Fake Out into Incineroar. It's fine because, like I said, Chandeler's never getting one rounded unless it gets doubled into. No, I think it locks into Earth Power here. So yeah, it goes into Earth Power and the Terra Stellar. We get the Trick Room up. So at this point, I think the obvious play is the Earth Power into the Incineroar slot, since you're already locked into Earth Power and Incineroar is very annoying for her team to take down usually. So getting rid of it would be very beneficial. So I end up just going for the 1-for-1, which I think ends up not being amazing. Like, I have a switch into Rillaboom there, and I think Overheat doesn't, it has like a chance to kill Tinkaton because of the Assault Vest. So I think another option could have been swapping in the Magearna for Chandelure and then going for that Flare Blitz trade, because that gets me +2 Magearna. And the Armors is actually it's pretty bad for my team to take down, because Fire just resists the rest of my team. So yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to make sure Arceus died this turn, but I think in reality it's probably a little bit safer to go into the Armor slot, honestly. Even though it ended up protecting there, and I'm not sure Dazzling Gleam actually kills, I would have maybe, because now like Shadow Ball's my only way to hit Armor. But I guess the goal is for Magearna to get enough boost to just hit through the resistance. Oops, too far. Okay, so yeah, Dazzling Gleam kills Whimsicott. Shadow Ball does quite a bit to Armor. Yeah, I think with one turn of Trick Room left, it doesn't really matter. Especially because Chandelure, you have to actually Expanding Force into it because of its Flash Fire. Like, you can't just chip both of them with Heat Wave here. So it ends up working out for me, but I think that is something that I needed to think about the next game, which is that I don't really have a good way to hit Armor without getting a ton of boosts, or without bringing down Dozo, which I didn't really want to bring into that team. So so I end up going for the same lead, and I think it gets, yeah, the Indeedee lead is annoying because I can't set up the Trick Room. So I get a free switch plus flinch here, but it doesn't put me in like any better of a situation, I think. Like, it lets me turn 2, I have another Fake Out into Arceus, but like, what am I going to do at that point? I guess I could Parting Shot the Arceus plus Fake Out, but Indeedee having follow me means that parting shot is really risky to go for, I think. Okay, so yeah, I'm actually surprised Rillaboom one hit KOs and DD. I'd have to run a calc on that. I don't feel like Rillaboom should one hit KO and DD, but it already did its job basically. It stopped the trick room from coming up, and now, like, I can't really switch my mons reliably here. Because the back two Holgon, I don't want to have them taking any unnecessary damage. Yeah, Chandler switching for Rillaboom makes sense because you expect Fake Out to come into one of these slots. But I actually think swapping into Magearna probably would have been better. Like, I get a +1, Fake Out's not going to do any damage anyway. Yeah, I think that was a big mistake. Well, yeah, it's not the worst mistake because I do get Trick Room up again, but like, I'm like quickly running out of steam, I think, because Magearna still hasn't gotten set up. I'm on turn 4 now and I have to spend time getting Trick Room up, and Chandelure not having Protect means that it's not going to be very sustainable, I think. Okay, yeah, so we flinch the Arceus, it goes for knockoff, we get Trick Room up. But I think it's just Woodhammer, Arceus, and Overheat Tinkaton, right? I think the other big thing here is I don't have anything to hit Armourouge with, like, at all. Okay, yeah, double up in Arceus makes sense, but. And, like, I haven't angled a haze here, but what am I going to do about this? Like, I don't want to switch Magearna in because if it heat waves, I'll just instantly lose. But this is where Chandelure, well, yeah, if it had Protect, this might have been. No, I mean, I still don't think it's playable because I don't think Rillaboom can't hit either of these mons for like that much damage. So at this point, I'm basically just hoping for a crit here. That's still a lot, actually. If Grassy Terrain was up, that would have done so much damage. So yeah, the thing now is that even though Trick Room is up, like, I don't have enough damage. Like, the armor is just too tanky. The obvious play here, or not the obvious play, but she has a good idea about, you can pin Magearna by going for Heat Wave plus Gigaton Hammer. So if you Terra Fairy, the Gigaton Hammer will hit. And yeah, I think, what is the play here? I think it's Protect, and then the problem is I think you have to risk a Protect here. Like, this Protect makes sense, but the next turn I think I have to do Terra Fairy Flare Cannon into Armourouge and hope it crits. But I end up going for Dazzling Gleam, which is not enough Because I think if I can get rid of armors, Magirna can beat Tinkaton on its own. But the flare cannon targeting is so risky because it makes a lot of sense for armors to protect on the last turn of Trick Room. So that right there I think is a good call from her to just keep attacking there. I actually think maybe from that range, it looks like Flare Cannon might have killed it, honestly. Because 27% from Dazzling Gleam off of a spread. Dazzling Gleam makes me think that Flare Cannon would have killed. But well played to her. Preserving the armors for the end is really nice. So yeah, I think in this game I end up realizing like I need to get set up faster, so I immediately go for the Magirna plus Annihilate. Which again I think is good into this team, just like free games, because there's not many protects. There's only 3 protects again. And I don't expect Meowscarada to come, although I think it ends up coming here. But so this is actually interesting because she can go for Tailwind actually. Tailwind plus target the Arceus slot down, but I think even if you do that, Final Gambit will knock Annihilate out, not do too much damage to the Arceus, but it'll knock itself out, and then Flash Cannon will knock out the Whimsicott. So it's like I end up getting 2 boosts here, I believe. Yeah. So like I think no matter what happens there, I end up getting 2 boosts for Magirna, which is the main goal. The taunt is actually pretty annoying because I don't have Protect to really do anything here. But I do have my good friend Incineroar, which I think Fake Out I probably should have done against Arceus. I was worried that it wouldn't kill Arceus. But I actually don't remember what I ended up doing here. The other play I thought about is that I could go into... I think what I end up doing is Chandelure comes in, I think. Because if I Terragus Incineroar, then Fake Out doesn't do anything to either Pokemon. And I actually thought that the... No, she goes for Terra Blast, yeah. So Terra Blast over Judgment here. Wait, why? I don't know why Arceus lost attack and special attack for that. There must be some interaction between, because that was the Draco Meteor animation. There must be some mechanic of Terra Blast that I don't know about there. But my thinking was that if she uses Judgment, which feels like its best move, then Chandelure and Incineroar would be immune to it, and both of them can't be fake outed or flinched by Fake Out. So that's why I made that play, even though it means giving up the 2x boost, and it ends up working out. But yeah, I don't really know what the Terra Blast interaction was, but we can skip on to the next one. So this is Ben's set with Aster, which, you know, these I haven't seen before, so okay, so okay, yeah, so the thing here is Ben's Magirna does not have flash cannon, so he doesn't actually have the option for killing the Whimsicott to get a second boost, but he does have the shift gear, which ends up giving the Flamigo the boost. That's a really sick play. I like the shift gear plus the tailwind. So Magearna gets all the boosts now. That's actually well, Garchomp wins here, right? Yeah. That got a little risky. I wonder if Magearna protecting there would have been better, but probably not, because if he, yeah, you kind of have to attack there, because if it goes into the Flamigo, then you're really screwed, right? So, yeah, so he goes for the same lead, and we see the same thing. Oh. Okay, yes, so that's a really nice play. The Terra Blast being super effective against Magearna actually one-shots it because of the Specs boost. So I'm trying to think, like, is the Tailwind here is actually really annoying for Annihilate. So I actually like what Aster's doing with the Whimsicott. Yeah, it's kind of hard to deal with, honestly. But yeah, Ben gets his own tailwind up here, which means that Earthquake can clean up the Tinkaton, but the Flamigo doesn't do enough damage here. Actually, I don't know. He could have gone for close combat and killed. I guess he might have not wanted the drop. I can't believe that. Wait. Okay, well, it doesn't matter because Meowscarada has... Oh, it's a dark type. Okay, never mind. I was like, why didn't that bring it down to 1 HP? But it makes sense because of the protein type change. So here we see the switch up from Ben. And then... Okay, yeah, so he's going into the Trick Room mode, which I like. Misty Terrain gets set up. So this is the thing that I found with Aura Sphere is, on paper, it looks like really good coverage because you can hit things like King Gambit and Archaludon and stuff like that. But if you run the calcs, like, I feel like just having Dazzling Gleam and Fleur Cannon lets you just blast everything even if it resists it. And then he has a slot taken for Shift Gear, which makes sense for the Co-Star Flamigo, but I found that running Fairy Feather plus Terra Fairy just meant my Fairy moves were going to be stronger than Aura Sphere most of the time. And there we kind of see it, like, obviously Arceus is a really tanky Pokemon, but the Aura Sphere is just not doing enough to it. Nice play there. Knockoff getting rid of the Eviolite means that Electabuzz goes down. Whimsicott comes back in. So, yeah, I think here... You're probably... yeah, I think the protect here doesn't make that much sense, because I think I skipped too many turns back. So yeah, I think right here, like, you're not afraid of anything, right? Because Arceus is specs, so it's going to be slower no matter what, or it has to switch out. And Magirnic survives whatever Tinkaton hits it with, even if it's Gigaton Hammer, unless it's a crit, I guess. But yeah, it ends up being pretty well played for Master going for the knockoff. I'm actually a little bit shocked that it did that much damage, but without the Trick Room, the Magirna doesn't have enough juice, I guess. Oh, this is interesting. I like the idea of the shift gear. I think Magirna is still too slow. This is really an interesting endgame, though. Oh wait, no, Aster has one more Pokemon. Wow. Oh my gosh, that endgame was so close there. He was one turn away. Like, the Tailwind faded at the same turn as the Psychic Terrain. But really good call from Master on a lot of those turns with the Meowscarada at the end. Very well played. So this is Ben versus Free Game. So yeah, I think me and Ben have both discovered that Annihilate plus Magirna is pretty good. And this is the same situation that I talked about for Free Game's team, which is not having the Protect in front of Annihilate means that that slot is always just going to get blown up. And there's no... I don't think any of these Pokemon have enough HP to tank it, and they also don't have enough... there's no Ghost type to be immune to it, so it's like... It's just so rough. Like, you have to lead double Protect Mon or something, like... Well, even then it doesn't really work. I think you kind of need Excadrill plus Tyranitar to outspeed it and then Earthquake it, so that the final Gambit doesn't do as much damage. I think that's probably the play, right? Like, you don't have to lead Tyranitar. You can do like Excadrill plus the other thing is the Indeedee actually has a higher base speed than Annihilate, but I think he's running modest Indeedee, so it's actually slower than Annihilate. I probably would have done... it's really hard. I think extra lead plus something here. Probably... either Garchomp or Corviknight makes sense to me, because then you threaten either Iron Defense with Corviknight, or you threaten another hit into Magirna, which knocks it out, I think. Okay, so this is what I wanted to see. Okay, so this is the part that I don't like as much, because Garchomp doesn't have Protect here, which means that he's probably going to final gambit. Oh, he doesn't final gambit that slot. Okay. I was going to say he probably just final gambits the Garchomp slot here. Yikes, that hurts. Yeah, it's probably GG's there, right? This is a pretty interesting situation. I think the taunt there is actually pretty interesting because it stops Excadrill from protecting, so what you can do the next turn is probably do protect Electabuzz, because the Excadrill wants to go for Earthquake a lot of the time. I guess if he went for Iron Head it wouldn't make much sense, but there's no way Flamingo's beating Corviknight plus Garchomp here. So yeah, I think if you're Ben, like, I would just final gambit this Garchomp slot, because this Garchomp doesn't have Protect. I think worst case scenario what happens is he switches Garchomp into Tyranitar and Excadrill gets an Earthquake off. But at worst what will end up happening is I think Earthquake plus Final Gambit might kill Tyranitar. Like, Final Gambit from lower HP plus Earthquake from Excadrill probably kills Tyranitar. And then Magearna will tank it, get 2 boosts, and then you hit Excadrill with... I mean, you could do Dazzlingly, or... I mean, at this point you probably do... Well... Single target Terra Fairy plus 2 Dazzling Gleam probably is enough to kill it. Or Aura Sphere at plus 2 will definitely kill it. So I think that's probably what I would have done. Especially in hindsight here, because if you final gambit the Garchomp slot here, especially knowing the play that he did do, obviously this is hindsight, but this would mean both these Pokemon go down, you get plus 2, Excadrill isn't threatening, and you get a Shift Gear boost here. So yeah, I think if you have an opportunity and you see that they don't have Protect in that slot, it's like a very safe option to hit that slot usually, unless you spot something in the back that's like really scary. But so yeah, this is the move that I kind of expected to see here. Okay, yeah. I think that's a little greedy if you're free game. Of course, we don't know who's faster here, but my guess is that it's really depends. Like, I feel like people should be running Jolly Max Speed Garchomp right now because Garchomp is so common. So the mirror matchup really matters. So yeah, I don't know if it was a speed tie or not, but I like the Garchomp lead. I think it puts so much pressure on Excadrill that it ends up working out pretty well. Yeah, I think funnily enough, what you might have been able to do is like Excadrill plus Zarude or Garchomp and just go for double attack, because the Magearna is slower for sure. I wonder if double Earthquake would have killed Magearna. It definitely kills Garchomp, that's for sure. Okay, so I don't know. Hold on. I might have downloaded this wrong. So Aster's replays are downloaded. So I thought I could just open the HTML file. Is this one just like corrupt? Oh, there we go. Okay, it just like timed out. I don't know what happened there. So, Garchomp Tyranitar against Tinkaton Arceus. This is pretty interesting here. This is Assault Vest, right? Yeah. So yeah, I see what he's going for here. You switch Corviknight in because you expect Earth Power into this slot. But if he targets the Excadrill slot right here, it's really bad. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter actually. Right, I forgot Excadrill's really fast. I don't know how I forgot that. Yeah, I don't think Meowscarada is winning this, so. I honestly think, well, so like the thing with this matchup is like the Excadrill is going to be insanely fast, obviously, with the Sand Up. So you either need Tailwind to answer it or you need to go into your Trick Room mode. The problem with the Trick Room mode is that I think your Pokemon are actually fast, so the Trick Room mode doesn't really work too well, considering that Corviknight and Tyranitar are really slow, so the speed control ends up being a pretty big issue here, I think. And also not having any way to slow down this earthquake damage is a big issue. Like, you have Fake Out, but Tinkaton is going to get KO'd by the next earthquake, basically. And you have two grass types, but they're both like pretty frail grass types that probably maybe get 2-hit KO'd. Well, probably not 2-hit KO'd, but it's probably close. Bright Powder coming in clutch there. Garchomp lives because of it. Tinkaton actually survives, which is pretty insane. Tailwind comes up. Yeah, I like the targeting there. But yeah, the Iron Defense here is really nice for free game because he knows that there's no threat to him right now. What Terra type is this? Water? Fighting. Interesting. So this is a cool turn here because I think it stalls out the last turn of Sand, if I'm counting correctly. So you have one turn of Tailwind. Oh, Tyranitar's still in the back. Yeah, honestly, I think that was pretty well played by free game. Like, being able to preserve the Tyranitar meant that the second Sand ended up being a huge deal because of the Sand Rush, so pretty neat there. Also showing off why Focus Sash on Excadrill is so nice to have over like a Choice Band or something. So good job there. I think that's all the replays. Like I said, if you want to just watch the VOD, then just mute and watch on silent. But if you want to, like, I don't think I'm going to go too much into these teams or anything like that, because, you know, it's not a format that we're going to play that much, so we'll see what happens for the next week's format. But yeah, that's it for now.